This is the Demystifying Mental Toughness podcast, hosted by David Charlton, and you're listening to this podcast to help you build your own mental toughness, so that you can support other people or your clients better. Either way, you will learn more about developing this plastic personality trait that all but guarantees that you will perform better and lead a more prosperous life. I'm back after taking a short break from work, from some social media platforms, and I'm re-energized and raring to go again. So today I've put together what's now the 5th compilation episode of the Demystifying Mental Toughness podcast. And this time it features some of the best bits from the previous 9 episodes. In there you're going to have a refresher on what mental toughness is and its importance from Paul Lyons. Edu Rubio highlights what I've dug into in a number of times recently, where he elaborates on being comfortable in his own skin. Amy Izycky builds on this when discussing vulnerability and macho behaviour. I add to this when I discuss women's professional sport and ask coaches and administrators to question their approach. Then we've got John Vallely, who discusses commitment, an element of mental toughness, where he specifically looks at mastery in golf. We've got Olympic bronze medalist Marilyn Okoro, who talks about perfectionism and finding peace with factors that you can't control. And then lastly, but not least, Andrew Nicholson discusses embracing fear in order to achieve your goals in golf. Enjoy tuning in. How do you define mental toughness and how does it apply to your typical client?
So, good question. So I'll give you the context. So I'm not a psych, don't have a psych background, and I'm not from an educational background. So my background's business, and for pretty much all my career, I was a business owner and running a business. And so therefore, my definitions of mental toughness and my, I suppose, understanding and appreciation of mental toughness really come from that perspective. So they tend to be in everyday language, practical language that perhaps I can understand better, but also my clients, who most of them would be business owners and or business leaders. So with that in mind, I'll give a shout out straight away to AQR, who developed the MTQ Plus and 4Cs, so the MTQ family framework of mental toughness, because that in itself is really simple. And I use that because it's simple and it's contemporary, and it's obviously very well backed scientifically. So I do use that framework a lot, the 4Cs framework, in what I do. But generally, there are a couple of, I suppose, quotes that I will use all the time that I think, to me, illustrate what mental toughness would be and what the definition would be. And the first one probably is that I really like is Peter Clough's definition. So he's obviously, as you know, one of the authors of the MTQ framework. And his view is that mental toughness is being comfortable in your own skin. And I really like that definition, and it resonates with my audience, because once you start to unpack that definition, you start to really go deep into what mental toughness is. So that's a big favourite of mine, David. I like that one. Another one I use from time to time is somebody you'd be aware of, Vince Lombardi, who was the fairly famous gridiron coach, I think for the Packers, was it? Green Bay Packers, I think, but many years ago. And he defined mental toughness as being character and action. And again, I really like that definition, because it's simple, practical day to day, and it's really talks to your self-definition and self-determination, and what is your character, and how does that play out in day to day when you're going around. Well, in his case, his players on the field, but with my clients in their sort of day-to-day life. So that one I like. And another one, which isn't exactly mental toughness, but has got huge elements of this, and that's another person you probably recognise, which would be Gilbert Inoka, who was the mindset coach for the New Zealand All Blacks for a good 10, 12 years, who apparently quite a successful rugby union team. And he was able, I think he took them post the 2007 semi-final defeat to France when they kind of bottled it, and he took them from there as the mindset coach through a couple of World Cup wins. And his great phrase is, well, he's got lots of quotes, but this one is "take control, one moment at a time," which I really like as it relates to mental toughness. In that you're in the moment, just focus on the moment, but take control. You know, you've got to own what you're doing and take responsibility for your thoughts and your actions right now, and don't think about don't think about what's coming. It's right now. And again, there are situations where I would definitely use that with some clients that we'll talk about later on, I'm sure, where they're just kind of overwhelmed and they need some clarity around kind of what they're going to do. And then the last one, probably that I use with audiences where I'm giving more of a sort of general presentation, would be Clough Stradic's definition of mental toughness being resilience and positivity, resilience and confidence, because most audiences would be able to understand their own definition of resilience or one I can give them, and obviously similar to confidence. So those are probably 3 or 4 that I kind of relate to myself and I feel resonate with my audience.
Who would you say has been the biggest influence on your career to date?
It's funny because I'm very blessed. I've had loads of really, really talented managers and coaches helping me out. Family as well, my parents, they've been always very, very supportive. And my sister as well. But I would say that, and I don't want to say this, when I say this, I don't want this to sound like egotistic at all, because if anything, I'm probably the opposite. But I think it's been me, as in, and when I say this, I mean, I'm with myself 24/7, and it's only you, and that's my belief as well, and that's what I say to the athletes I work with. I've been blessed with mentors and people and family and friends who are there for me, and without them I wouldn't be where I am. And I know it sounds cliche, but it is true. But ultimately, I think it has to be your biggest supporter and your biggest idol, and has to be your true self. It has to be you detaching from your ego, all right, and kind of like being the one who is like there, is like, who am I? Who am I really? Why am I here for? What do I do? What do I want? And really go deep into yourself and really kind of like make sure that everyone else is there to tap into knowledge, into resources, into learning, into growth, into support. But ultimately, when you go back into wherever you go, you are by yourself, even if you are surrounded by everyone else. And I think when you are capable of saying, you know what, it's me, it's only me, then you've got a bigger opportunity to be happier in your mind. And I think, as I said earlier in this podcast, I generally believe that for me, success, to spin it in a much more positive way, because I think earlier I said like failure, success is about being content and happy within yourself, and understanding that you are your biggest idol and your biggest, and I don't say, and obviously again I have to be careful when I say these things, because it could be understood as kind of like egotistic or kind of like self-absorbed or self-centered or anything like that. But no, I mean, it's more kind of like saying, detach yourself from your ego and find your true self and your true soul. Actually make sure that you are there for you, because otherwise you cannot really embrace everyone else's support. Everyone else's support and help won't be optimized in the same degree as if when you are kind of like satisfied with yourself and when you respect yourself. And I think that's a massive thing for any athletes, to respect and love themselves, because the minute they do respect and love themselves, wow, it's powerful. The empowerment they get and the resources they get and the resilience and the degree of self-confidence and assertiveness that they get, it's something really, really magical.
So as you quite rightly said there, my role is more about optimizing performance. So I think, if I was to look back at all my clients, probably 80% of those would be performance related, and then maybe 20% of the work might touch on mental health, but it's more about like proactive measures in order so that they feel better in themselves and they're able to train well and perform well. And I suppose one of the things I notice is, again, with this whole toughness culture about pushing through, is athletes can struggle to actually just sit back and actually rest and recover well, which links us quite nicely to macho behaviour. And it's often encouraged in sport. Do you want to share with the listeners some of the potential impacts that macho behaviour, where it can harm your mental health?
Yeah. So I think, again, from my perspective in the clinic, if someone starts to talk to me about macho behaviour or toughness, I have to consider whether or not something else is at play here, where is something being defended against. So the whole premise of the psychoanalysis is to think about what's in our unconscious worlds and what is it that we are defending against. Now, we all have defense mechanisms. They're all there for a reason, and it's not my job to come in and break those down unless, again, somebody tells me that they're distressed by something. So from experience in talking to people in the book and clinically working with athletes, I think sometimes when macho behaviour comes unhelpful is when it has become a defensive reaction to wanting to ignore or not go near vulnerability within ourselves. And for me, my argument is that in order to be incredibly successful or resilient, I think I prefer the term resilient, having an awareness and insight into our vulnerabilities is absolutely the thing that can become one of our biggest assets when we're trying to perform or when we're just trying to get on with our daily lives, really.
Yeah, and one of the elements of mental toughness, funny enough, is learning orientation, which really is all about learning from your mistakes and actually delving that little bit deeper into understanding those vulnerabilities, those fears. And certainly, well, Peter Clough, who's done an awful lot of research in this area, would say being comfortable in your own skin is the key, really, around mental toughness. I'm not quite sure where I'm going with this right now, but you might want to help me out.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, no, I think it's a lovely way of looking at it. Absolutely. In terms of what I strive for as a clinical psychologist and as a psychodynamic psychotherapist, people may be disappointed with this, but I'm not striving for extreme happiness as an outcome of therapy. I'm striving for something very similar to that we're just okay, that there is a balanced appraisal of life and ourselves, and that there are good parts, that there are bad parts, and that we're just okay with that. And that, for me, is an excellent outcome. So I like that.
So now I'm going to take into account conversations I've had with Taz Bricknell, Ali Dixon, Marilyn Okoro about women's professional sport. And currently I'm actually working in women's professional sport, so I have a close understanding of what things are actually occurring in that field. So I'd be asking some questions. Are the confines, are the cultures actually harming female athletes' development? Is there too much pressure on some female athletes. In lots of cases, the female athlete, the female professional athlete that is working 30 plus hours in jobs to keep a roof over their heads. And then they're expected to train, to physically prepare themselves, and then play in chosen sports and to compete at a very, very high level. And if we consider what I mentioned earlier about the fact that they're performing, that's right, performing. These ladies are performing for 60 plus hours per week. So in my eyes, coaches and management have an obligation to help them be as comfortable in their own skin as much as possible. They're then going to get so much more from them. So this means treating them as individuals, understanding that yes, they do have their own personalities and environmental preferences, and considering their special needs. The doers amongst them, and the seriously driven ones, and the ones who find it difficult to organize themselves will definitely need more TLC as a coach. They're going to need some downtime, times where they can just take a step back from time to time. Otherwise, their performances and potentially their mental health are going to suffer. So I'd like to ask you, if you're a coach or a manager, how are you managing these individuals? Do you have the right team around you to provide emotional and psychological support too? Are you letting them let off steam by having conversations about potential financial worries, about work, about relationships, as well as the actual sporting experience? Are you open to talking about the demands on their lives, menstrual cycles, and their form, simply by ensuring that they have a safe space to talk to you as a coach? By you displaying compassion and empathy is so important here. But are you too busy? Are you giving enough time to these athletes, to these players? Or are some of your staff doing that? Or in some cases, some people can see this as high maintenance behavior by actually having these conversations. Is this a form of self-protection? I'm going to ask you there. Is that because you don't know what to say, or that you really don't want to talk about emotions? So I'm going to encourage you to question yourself, question your approach in that regards, because there are reasons that people may be having a moan, that they may be having a whinge. So working with them, adapting to their needs within the organization, within the club, and obviously the confines around this. I appreciate it can be very difficult in a team scenario, but I'd like you to consider, if you shut off individuals and you don't allow them that opportunity to talk, to offload, what the consequences are going to be. Certainly that player, that person isn't going to feel comfortable in their own skin. And then when the pressure's on, when you really, really need them, there's a good chance that they won't perform freely, that they won't perform with confidence. And they may well be unreliable too. They may well let their emotions bubble over and get involved in the blame game. It's complex as mental toughness, as is psychological safety. But certainly by having these conversations, it can be really, really beneficial for all parties.
When I'm selecting squads with my England regional stuff, we will look beyond just what they're doing with a golf swing. We're looking for them internal qualities, a deep love of the game, and that inner drive, which is something you don't see as often, where somebody's absolutely driven. And I think the best players will fall in love with the process of improvement. They're quite happy just messing around on the short game area for hours on end, totally content, fascinated with kind of the controlling the golf ball. I suppose that's the ultimate mastery mindset. And to those players, it's not a sacrifice. It's just something they love doing, and it's there's no place they'd rather be, I suppose. And that's the difference. That's the commitment for the people who get to that highest level. They're just on a mission, as we would call it. So with all the players I work with, especially the younger players, I'm always trying to light that fire in the younger players, and so they're off and running, and their home environment's going to have a lot to do with that. Almost behind every up and coming young player, there's normally going to be a a parent who's supporting them massively and encouraging them and pushing them and giving them the opportunity to pursue their kind of love of the game, sort of, and then nowadays, so environment's everything, there can be some luck involved in that environment. You might not live near a golf course and things like this, but people are now manipulating their environment so they can make sure their children have got that opportunity to develop. It's sort of, personally, Dave, I was brought up opposite a golf course, but none of my family played, which was quite unusual. Well, my uncle did. My uncle played, but he lived in Jersey. But I was quite competitive. But if I hadn't been brought up 50 yards across the road from a golf club, I probably would have never played golf. So it was a little bit of luck involved in that, I think also from a commitment point of view, golf will attract a certain type of person, especially for people who want to get to that highest level. You've got to be fairly happy spending some time on your own and willing to go and practice a lot, and there's a huge correlation between the most successful players that I've worked with and hard work. I've almost never had to ask them to do it. They've just done it because they love the process, and I, with my regional squad, we they send me a weekly plan, and without question, the ones who go on to achieve the most are the hardest workers. I see them going above and beyond what is needed, which is so the results aren't a fluke, really, David. It's behind it all is a lot of hard work, and just like I said, they're in love with the process of improvement.
Yeah, I suppose you've touched on what perfectionism maybe there, where that striving for excellence and winning. Can you actually try to be too perfect?
Oh, perfect doesn't exist, and I think sport teaches you that, because I know every time I ran a PB, I always found something that I could have done better. Or athletes always come off the track and say, oh my gosh, that felt so easy. Like we were expecting this mammoth fight, right? Because that's what training is, and that's what the journey's been. It's like grind, and then you go and run your race, and you run 2 seconds quicker than you've ever run before. Sometimes in my case is 7 seconds quicker. And then you think, oh, I didn't even do that though, but I didn't do that. So, is there that perfect race? No, I think it's a perfect storm, maybe. And it's just, I try not to use the word perfect. It is definitely what, from, I guess, the age of 10 to 20 even, I was like, I'm just trying to get it perfect. But what I have learned, as a 36-year-old, is that perfect doesn't exist. It's about that opportunity, meeting the preparation, and timing, and there's an element of it that we just can't control, which once we kind of find peace with that, the chips will fall where they may, and it's either your day or it's not. And it's just back to the drawing board and see how we can come back fighting stronger if it happens to not be your day.
I like that. There's a couple of things in there, again, where you mention about that perfection doesn't exist, because, especially when you're younger, you can be a little bit skewed, can't you, in your thinking around that. And then the finding peace with it, that's going to allow you just to fully express yourself and go out there fearlessly.
Absolutely. I think because I was this sort of maverick type athlete in British athletics and not really fitting the mold of what they knew as 800 meter running in the UK for so long, I had to realize that actually I was delivering, but I'm not the perfect 800 meter runner that, everyone's talking about. I don't do this yet. I am, top of the nation. I am, number 4 in the world. So I'm doing something right. It's just in my own way and on my own terms as much as possible. But there is that element to, I can only control the controllables. We hear that all the time. And so it was understanding what was within your control, what was in your toolkit, your kit bag even, and running with that and strengthening that and focusing there, because that was my best possible shot of delivering the performance that I was, I'd practiced so hard for.
So I think that would be the difference between, say, both ends of the spectrum, to look a little bit more in the middle of the spectrum between, say, like a Challenge Tour player and a European Tour player. again, I think that just different constraints. Challenge tour, the fairways are wider. There isn't as much of a premium on accuracy. Greens are slightly slower. Flags are less tucked. And this is why you see very strong scoring on the Challenge Tour. And, you know, so one of the things that if you've, as a coach, if you've got a young player that in some respects is transitioning from an elite amateur into the Challenge Tour, that can be really that can be actually, I believe, the hardest transition, because you go from playing tricky links courses in wind, where like 1 under, 2 under, 3 under par is a good score, to then playing Challenge Tour, you know, on relatively longish kind of courses, but what I would almost class them, you know, they're more like a corporate course. You know, fairways are a little bit wider, bunkers are not quite so deep, you know, greens are a little bit larger, pins are not quite as tucked. So you've got to shoot 20 under to win. So that ability for a golfer to average 5 under par per round is actually quite mentally very difficult when you've been accustomed to grinding around the links for 1 or 2 or 3 under. So then, you know, if you grind on the Challenge Tour, you're not going to get on the main tour through it. It's not a grinding tour. Probably the European Tour is more grinding than the Challenge Tour. So, I mean, obviously I'm generalizing here. You know, so I think that, you know, the ability, the key for someone coming out on Challenge Tour is mentally getting their head round, being able to shoot 20 under par. When they shoot 5 or 6 under, they can't just think, wow, I'm doing well today, I'm 5 or 6 under. Because if they don't shoot another one the next day, they're going to drop down, because it's so top heavy money wise. If you don't win, you know, if you don't win one Challenge Tour event, the chance of you finishing high up enough to get a card is pretty slim. So you've got to be able to, you know, capitalize on scoring, and you've got to go deep and you've got to go low. So that is different to the constraint of elite amateur golf. There are the odd times where someone would do that, maybe in a Brabazon or something like that, but that's kind of like more of a rare situation where that is every single week on Challenge Tour. So then you go from Challenge Tour to main tour. Now, okay, someone like Brooks Koepka or someone like that, a very rare commodity, like I said, they can go 20 under Challenge Tour and then 2 weeks later go 20 under main tour. But, you know, we're talking about someone who really is destined to be at the top of the pyramid. So in that instance, when you get on tour, it's really about grinding, making 1 under par from 1 over par, making level par from 2 over par. And it really starts coming down to small marginal gains then. You know, that's almost when the marginal gain argument, you know, would start. And so as a coach, that's when, okay, you wouldn't just try and do this, because obviously you would try and, you know, bring this into somebody's thought process and into their kind of structures and into their training and into their philosophies and into their beliefs. And, you know, you would do this before to prepare them for it. But ultimately, when they get on tour, you know, you want to be good at putting. You want to be good at chipping. You've got to be good at control and distance. You've got to be a reasonable distance off the tee. You've got to keep your ball generally in play. You know, so you start looking more at a marginal gain, and you start looking at maybe 6 or 7 or 8 different spokes of a wheel, and you're trying to find little 5% on this spoke and 2% on this spoke and maybe a 10% if you can on another spoke. And, you know, and you're trying to maximize performance by breaking up, you know, somebody's game into spokes, trying to strengthen, work out where the weaknesses are on the spokes, and then trying to like figure out what strategies you need to improve those spokes, you know.
The snippets from each of these episodes, I hope, help you understand that mental toughness is a lot more complex than some people lead you to believe. Feel free to go back through some of these episodes that I've highlighted. They're all fascinating listening in their own unique ways. And if you're enjoying listening to the Demystifying Mental Toughness podcast, I'd love it, I'd really love it, if you could leave a positive review on iTunes. Have a great week ahead. If you enjoyed this episode of the Demystifying Mental Toughness podcast with David Charlton, do check out my website, sport-excellence.co.uk, and my online sports psychology resources. The Sport-Excellence website has essential resources for anyone looking to build their own mental toughness or the mental toughness of their athletes or teams, or if you want to achieve peak performance more often or optimal functioning. The Sport Excellence website has everything you need to keep moving forward and thrive. So go on, head over to sport-excellence.co.uk to find out more.